Hi everyone. Tonight we're going to look at getting started on a project. So in Revit 22, we're going to open a new project. This would be the base version of Revit. So again, like I said in my first video, there's some aftermarket or third-party things that we'll look at in later videos that open up a lot more doors on this. But let's look at this if you just got Revit, you're looking at trying to set up a project. So in that, Revit's a little more tailored towards construction. So when you go to the template, going from the new model, you'll see mainly all these are more building related. So you go to Browse, open that, and you'll find the electrical one. So this is tailored more towards the electrical side. So go ahead and open that. And then hit OK. And there we go. So we don't have a building yet. This is just bare bones, no building. But there's some steps we need to do to set up for when we do put a building in there. So we want to go to Manage, set up some of our parameters. So in MEP settings, go to electrical settings, and we'll go through all of these items on the left side that you can change. Some of them I don't really mess with. We'll kind of show you those. This area in the hidden lines I don't mess with. If you want to play around with, you've got some different in the hidden lines that are produced in Revit in the electrical side of Revit. You could change some of the excuse me, some of the lines in that baseline. It's hidden, and I've left it that way, and it seems fine. General, there's some different things here that that you can change. Most of them have different selections that you can pick from on these. For the most part, I leave these alone. The circuit description, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to go into your panel schedule. I don't mess with that. Of course, ABC phase, load names. So a lot of these are from the parameters that are in the families of the outlets and so. I don't mess with that. Circuit sequence, that's something I do change. I like to go, group by phase, or odd then even. Usually I go odd then even, but that's whatever your firm or whatever you like to do. Circuit rating of 20 amp, that's kind of the whatever it shows up whenever you place an outlet or an item. It just gives you a baseline of 20 amps, and then you can change it. That basically will be what your circuit rating is and what's going to equate to your wire sizing that it does, along with breaker sizing. I just leave it at 20 because you end up changing it in the program anyway when you start to establish your loads. And then the circuit path offset, I don't mess with that. Angles, I don't really mess with any of this. Just something I don't mess with. Some of these, it's good to take a look at. Your ambient temperature, if you're looking at a project, maybe it's a little different temperature ratings you want to change. The gap of the wires, when you have your wire crosses each other so it's not touching, it leaves a gap on one of them so you can follow the wire easier. Personally, in the tick marks, I like to go with the hot tick as short, the ground wire as a circle, and then leave the neutral long. I don't mess with the slanted tick marks. you have some choices on how you want to show your tick marks. I leave it as always and then just turn it on and off as I need to when I'm in the program, but you can establish that right up front here with some choices. Maybe you want to just have them on just the home runs or just the end wire of the home run, which to me is one and the same. Voltage drop, probably wise to set it up, you know, per NEC or per whatever your feeling is there. That's their baseline, at 2% for branch and 3% for feeders. The home runs, you could set up your different ways for how you want your arrows to show on your home runs. I like multiple arrows on the end only, but you could do it any way you like. It's kind of nice there. And then the home run arrow style, you got lots of choices, you know, filled or you know, open 90 degrees, filled 20 degrees. So you got lots of choices. I bounce between 15 and 30 degrees on that. Also, just a side note, if you hit this OK button anywhere during this, it shuts this window down, and then you just have to open it up again to finish it. So just don't touch that quite yet. It'll save everything at the end. Wire sizes, two choices, aluminum, copper. You could change your temperature ratings, your insulation. I honestly just leave this like it is, even though we don't really use RH conductors. You can change that, you know, a little later on when you get into some of the wiring types down below. Correction factors, you know, if you go, let's say if you go 75, you can get some changes there. So you can tailor this to what you want to see in your project. Ground conductors, pretty much based off of NEC. You might double check just to make sure, but you know, you can also change those if you like. You got aluminum and copper. Wiring types. Here you could do a lot of changes if you feel comfortable with it. I usually go from 60 to 75 based on more terminations, but that does change depending on the conditions that you're in and what you guys feel comfortable with. The max size for what we do is I kind of cap it off at copper at 500, and then big runs where you've got parallel runs, then we just kind of limit it at 500s and 3-inch conduit, you know, kind of the way we do things. If you want to oversize your neutral, I mean, you can either oversize or undersize. Maybe you want to go 2 sizes smaller or half a size smaller on your neutral, so you can make that a 0.5. I usually just leave it at 1 and kind of mess around with that as I'm going through the project. You can change that if you're looking at one particular size or type that you're going to be maybe a lot of just delta or motor circuits. You could create one wire type for just motors and name it something different. So you could pop the neutral off. The neutral size itself, it could either be the same size as the hot or current carrying, or be unbalanced current. So you can select that, and non-magnetic or steel. So you can change that around. So you could tailor that or make multiples of the same with different you know, neutral multipliers, or whether it's required or not. So that's nice. So let's say you want to take your XHHW, you could change it to aluminum. If you want to keep your temperature rating at 60, or you go to 75, maybe you want to kick that up to 750 for big service entrance conductors or something in parallel. Let's say you want to go 0.50 on your neutral. You know, you can do a lot there. If you want to add one, let's say a commercial job, you want to add some MC cable, you just type in MC cable. The conductor will be copper, 75 degrees depending on your termination. THHN, I believe, in that, and it's a smaller conductor, so the max size of that, you might get some different cable that might get you up into, let's say, a number 8. Give yourself some room there just in case. Neutral and that's always going to be the same size. You know, all that could be the same. Steel with a steel flex covering. So, but you get the idea. You can add whatever you want through here. Voltage definitions. You know, your basics. 120, 208, 240, 277, 480. Which leads into distribution systems, which is what a lot of this will be based off of when you get into actually placing your outlets, motors, lighting, etc. So you got the basic ones, 120, 208, Y, 120, 240 single phase, 480, 277, Y. I usually add a 480 delta if we're into an industrial project. And that's also good for if you're running to the primary side of dry type transformers and things like that, along with motors. 3-phase, change that to 3-phase. You can change that to delta. Your line to line on that would be 480. So the only other thing that I'd suggest adding is maybe if you're looking at a pad mount transformer or some sort of utility transformer, of getting the voltage in that as well. So that's going to kind of be whatever your utility is providing. So I think in some of the third-party ones, they go at like 13,800 volts, but you might verify that. Cable tray settings, I really don't change anything here. It's pretty straightforward. If you do a lot of cable tray, you might play around with some of these. We've done enough cable tray and drawings that nothing's really got me too sideways on that. So it's, but you know, if you've got some different things you want to do, you can play with it there. Same with conduit, and this is pretty straightforward. The rise and drops, single line, 2-line symbology. Sizes are all straightforward. You can verify that with manufacturers for EMT and IMC and rigid. Schedule 40 PVC, Schedule 80 PVC. So if you click down on that one, you can see it changes, get some different sizes, additional sizes in there. And that's when you actually do the conduit layouts, which are really cool. I'm kind of looking forward to doing that video. Load calcs, pretty straightforward. They've got some a good amount of demand factors. You know, let's say a motor, you've got your largest motor 125% and the rest at 100%, you know, and it automatically figures that. And you know, the receptacles in a commercial building, you've got that. You know, everything's pretty good with code, but you can also, you know, do your own changes in there as well. Panel schedules, you can set it up to where how you want your spares and your spaces called out when it asks for those. You can include the spares in your panel totals, and I like doing this. I merge the multi-pole circuits into a single cell, so you just have one big cell that shows your 3-pole space or 2-pole space instead of 3 individual ones. I think it just looks a lot better. Circuit naming, you can go in and change a parameter and add it. I don't mess with this. If you guys get more advanced into it, or if somebody wants to throw a note in the comments of what they do with that, that'd be cool. But so we're all done. So everything that was changed up in here when you hit OK is all saved. Another one, as you're doing a project setup, today we're not going to really get into bringing in a drawing and all that. We'll kind of look at that on the next video. But one that it's a good one to do is your project. Let's see, where are they? Project parameters. No, it's not that one. Project units. Sorry about that. So in here you can change some of the things. Oh, let's say an electrical. Not a whole lot here, but if you get into any third-party stuff with like light levels, you have a choice between foot candles and lux. So depending on where you're from or how you want to see it, you can change that. I leave it at foot candles. All the electrical type items are pretty straightforward there. If you get into the common stuff, you might change some of your, if you get into dimensioning, you might want to change some of these of how tight you want. I mean, if you want to show things down to the 32nd, you can leave it there, but if you want to take it to the nearest eighth, I think that's what I do. If you're trying to show a distance off to a conduit or something like that, that's where you change that. But there's things here, if you want to change to different units, you could do that there. Okay. Beyond that, that's pretty much it. Oh, let's see, one more thing I want to go through. When you go into systems, let's say you want to add your an outlet. Even though we don't have a building here, I'll show you something. In the outlets, you got very few. You've just got a couple. So the outlets, I hit escape there. So in the devices, you've got multiple devices, and these are actually called electrical fixtures when you look them up. So you just don't have a lot there on the base format. So, and in Revit 22, it's a little different, and somebody, if they can show me in the comments anything that can guide me a different way. But the only way to load more families in that I've found in 22 is to go to Insert and Load Autodesk Family. And that is coming from the cloud, from the Autodesk website. And that gives you far more items to load and gives you a lot more options. So my suggestion would be to build a project setup, a model or a project. This would be a project that you have all of this stuff preloaded, and you just save it as, your firm's project, starter project, let's call it that. And then everything's preloaded. You got all of your voltages set, all of your wires set, all that stuff. So you don't have to do this every time. Make it kind of a template, and then you can load any of these items that you need. Just kind of spend an hour or so and load them all into that, save it, and then that's your go-to when you start a project. So in this case, you want to stay in the MEP area, so that you're actually in the smart that actually do the electrical functions. So let's say we've got electrical equipment, balance power. So this is something that you can use for any type of electrical equipment that you want to put a load to. So let's say I want to load that one in. So you just click it, load it, and then it goes in there. and then when you go back to systems, go to device, and then oh, I must have fallen into escape. I must have went into electrical equipment. Yeah, it did. Electrical equipment. Sorry about that. So this just gives you kind of all it ends up being is just a circle that just gives you a placeholder that you can put information for a load. So if we had walls or a floor or something, we could place it on it, but we don't have that yet. But just something that, you know, you'll find out when you start to play with it. Different families that you'll use, some that you won't. But my suggestion is to try to create a setup project that is your template for all of your future projects, and load everything in there that you need, and then that's your go-to. So we'll end that for now. Appreciate your time, and if you can hit that like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. And please leave comments, because I want to learn from you guys as much as hopefully I'm teaching you. So till next time, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.